Welcome to Freedom Talks. So glad that you're here. You're so kind to have come, okay, and sit and listen. I want to give a shout out to everyone out there and on the internet, online, streaming, or otherwise. Thank you for joining us here at Freedom Talks. We're excited that you're here. It's our pleasure. So, well, y'all look pretty good. Are we feeling good? Okay, and you're in the right spot. Okay, exactly where you're supposed to be, okay, if you're not feeling so well. If you're new, if this is your first time to experience Freedom Talks with me, well, just hang on. It may get better. And talk to those who have been here for a while. And we usually are just continuing some discussion that we've had in the past. We're doing that again tonight, so anybody that has semi-paid attention or taken notes or something like that, you might ask them after the fact. I've written these areas of relationship back up here. Those who have been here remember that we've been kind of looking at these areas of relationship. Remember, relationship is simply relating to. That's all that word means. And so we are built for relating to ourselves, family, others, God, a higher power, the environment, okay, the ecology, the world in which we live in, all actually runs on interaction and relationship. We don't tend to use the word relationship like that, which is part of the challenge that we face. We need to use it more in that manner. Again, as I'm kind of going back over stuff, you will remember that addiction is an abnormal relationship, okay, with a substance or people or an idea or a place or a thing. You can fill in the blank. For our purposes, we're going to stick with substances. It's an abnormal relationship with a substance in which negative consequences do not promote an adjustment. I keep doing the same thing I'm doing, expecting different results. Even though I have negative consequences, I don't seem to be able to make an adjustment in a healthy manner. That's kind of where we find ourselves when we're dealing with these substances. So that's the abnormal relationship. Recovery is a trading of the abnormal relationship for a normal relationship, that which we can find in places like this, in these groups, with each other, developing a healthier self, okay, a healthy family context, a healthy relational context with others, and then a relationship that I might have with a higher power, the Great Spirit, or God, as we often say. And so in my world, in my idea, my frames of reference, relationship is everything. It's really everything. And in my frame, or in my world, relationships are always moving in a circular motion. If you went to school, and you probably had to, like me, they tended to teach us ideas would go from one spot to another in a straight line, like from point A to point B. They didn't really know they were teaching us that, but that's what they were. Along with that idea, like a starting point and an ending point on a flat line, along with that idea, they taught us that the way to understand all concepts or ideas was to reduce them down to their simplest components. Now, that is a way of understanding some things, but it is not the only way to understand. And if I am trapped with only, it's what we call a reductionistic philosophy, educational philosophy. If I'm trapped by only being able to reduce things down to the simplest components, what happens is I lose the idea of the whole. We do this to ourselves even. We reduce ourselves down to what we perceive to be the simplest component. When I do that, I run the risk of losing the whole of myself. For example, and then I'll move on. But I am more than any of the one part that make me up. I am more than a man. I mean, I am a man, but I am more than a man. I am more than my ideas of a man. I am more than my emotion. I am those things too. I am a husband, but I'm more than a husband. I am a professor, some say, but I'm more than a professor. I'm a coach. I've been a football coach, but I'm more than a football coach. See where I'm kind of going with this? We are all those things, and identity will be made up of those components, but even with all of them together, even if you could hold all of them together, we would still be more than just the sum of those parts. Because that's where we were created, with that type of complexity. We are complex and we are simple at the same time. And we have to hold that together. So, hopefully I've confused you enough that you will listen now. And I can drop some things in. It will go below your conscious. It will sink into your primary process, into your subconscious, and you won't even know it happened. That's cool, isn't it? You're like, doesn't sound very good. But let's move on. Just remember, we're greater than the sum of our parts. And all of those parts are in relationship. Which is why this is so important. We've talked about self a little bit. We've talked a little bit about relationship with the higher power. Oh, that's good. I'm going to focus in on this one for a second tonight. Okay? Don't panic, though. I'm going to put a couple of words up there, 3 words up there, and I want you to think what comes to your mind instantly when I put these words up here. You don't have to speak or shout it out or anything. Just hold that thought when we get there. Hopefully you can see it. Community. And then commune. And then communication. Here's some words that we kind of have heard and know about, but let's just unpack them just briefly for a second. A community, with the prefix of the ITY, is really just any system, that is held together by some characteristic that they share. So if you think about certain types of communities, if you grew up in maybe a rural community, all that means is that in this vast area of land, there was several people that were kind of grouped together, and we call that a what? It's a community, We share proximity in residence. Sometimes we think of churches that you come and you go and you attend service and you assemble together. We have a shared belief, possibly a shared doctrine. We also call that, you see, a community. It is a set or a subset of people who are in, relationship based on a shared interest or belief or an idea, right? So far, so good. Oh, do we? We do. I honestly did not see that. At least this trip. I remember it's there now. So now I'm going, what else is up there that I'm going to... hopefully I won't contradict anything that's up there. I don't think I will. So the sense of community, okay, is sharing that idea. Where is the first sense of community that you experience as a human being? Pretty easy. I wrote it up there, right? Outside of, that's the test, kind of test I like, when the answer's up there already. Yeah, family. Family gives me the first sense of community, but I don't know that I'm getting that sense. I'm just inheriting a language of relationship that is used by my family unit. Make sense? Did any of you pick your family? Some of you are going much more enthusiastically than others. Yeah, no, we don't get those choices. We show up. We show up and we have a family, and it's the first idea or sense of community that we get. And we inherit those thoughts, those feelings, those ideas and beliefs. We inherit the way in which we relate to those things automatically from my family. We can't help it. Okay, the challenge is, as I grow and mature, okay, if I disagree, and sometimes I do, how is it that I carve out my own language of relationship? You with me? How do I get into another subset of language? And that takes a little bit of work. It's almost as if my family will always possess inside myself, at least inherently, it's going to be my initial language. Maybe what we might call my native tongue. Y'all speak English, I'm guessing, right? Do you remember learning English? Not the school English. I don't know what that is. I'm talking spoken English. We have no cognitive memory of really learning how to speak English. We speak English, okay, and maybe possibly you might be bilingual if you grew up in a home that had two languages. We speak English literally because what? That's what my family spoke. That's what my brain heard and formulated. Brain does what a brain does. And so I literally inherited the English language. Now, do I have the capacity, do I have the wherewithal inside this brain to learn another language? Of course I do. It's a challenge, though, isn't it? Takes me a little bit of effort, takes me a little bit of work. You are up against a similar challenge. In order for me to speak Chinese, we would have to start with the presupposition that I wanted to speak Chinese. Just wanting to learn a new language, that's a beginning step. Doesn't really get it done. I mean, I have to, if I really want to learn Chinese, I probably need a tutor or a teacher. I might even need a book of some kind to help me with the basics. I need to talk to the teacher. And the teacher then would talk to me in English and in Chinese. But I have to think in what? I got to think in English. I got to think in English, and I got to try to change my English then into Chinese. That doesn't happen seamlessly or really very smooth. And if I really, really wanted to get fluent as fast as I could, I would have a desire, I would have a teacher, I would have a book, and then I would go hang with people who speak Chinese. And even at that, it'd take me a little while, wouldn't it? Because that inherited language of relationship, okay, is really down in there deep. I don't want you to be scared of that. I don't want you to be ashamed of that. I don't want you to do anything with that except love it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's what you inherited. To learn a new language does not mean we get rid of the old one. It simply means we add to it. We are adding to it. Not getting rid of it, not taking away, adding to it. And that's what increases our ability to be in broader communities. Ones that might be a little different. Ones that might be, wider. So let's develop this idea a little bit more because hopefully it's going to make sense to you. What do you think about commune? What is it to commune?
From one place to the other.
Okay, that might be commute, going from one place to another. But to commune, community, a sense of community with our family, but to actually commune is to spend time with. To spend time with. When we're little bitty, we may not have an option about spending time with, but just time alone does not necessarily make healthy communion. On Sundays, traditionally in Christian organizations, they will take what they call communion. The idea of communion, though, is spending time and sharing in memory, with the larger community of those that believe in Jesus. But think of our commune that you grew up with. How did your family spend time? What did they do? And now we get quite diverse because it's all off the chart, Some people grew up with hardly any commune time, left on their own. Some had maybe a lot of commune time. But I will tell you this, that in this day and time, you probably know where I'm going with this, in this day and time, families are losing the ability to commune. Largely due, honestly, to technology. Even when they are with each other, if you notice, a lot of times they're also on the phone or looking at something or watching something. That's not communing. That's pseudo-communication or false communication. And we're going to get to that here in just a second and what it means, for us. But I want you to consider the fact that John 3:17, you guys form a community. There is a community that is held together by a shared interest, by a shared belief, and this is even the best one, by a shared challenge. That's a real community. And the reason that these programs work is because when we get that community and then we actually commune in relation with each other, we build a synergy. We build a power that is greater than ourselves, that actually connects with the power greater than ourselves. And so, as I've told you before, I can't stay sober. But we can. We can. Even though I can't. So, if you trickle on down, what we're actually going to talk about today is communication and how it relates to relationship. But I wanted to set that up and at least draw it home as to why this is such has such a positive impact. You come, you form this community, and you actually commune with each other, and I want to see if we can help that process by talking about communication, okay? Because that's what you have to do. As you can guess, in my line of work, particularly if I'm seeing couples that are in relationship, they come to me, okay, for help. Why? I'm not sure. Take a guess at what is usually one of the first things they say. We just don't. Oh, I like that better. Get along, that was said. But you got that right. Yeah. But a lot of times they tag it on the reason they're not getting along is because they can't what? Communicate. Can't communicate. Which is, kind of my cue to take off on my tangent about communication, which is kind of what we're going to do right now, and at least look at this idea. I will tell you right now that communication, I believe, is sacred. It is sacred. It is vitally important. In fact, it is the foundation, the cornerstone, the key to all relationship and all ability to commune. But you're much better at communicating than you think you are. But that does make a difference. If I think I don't know, I don't know. If I'm unaware, I proceed as if, I don't know. So a lot of times I would ask people, do you believe that you're a good communicator? And usually in those settings, where it's a husband and wife, the wife will say, yes, I'm a good communicator. And the husband will say, no, I'm not a very good communicator. Just a stereotypical, kind of response. And so I go, well, I think you're both pretty good at communicating. And they look at me funny and I go, yeah, can you walk in the house and before a word is spoken, know if it's been a good day or a bad day? That's pretty good communication. How can you get much better than knowing before speaking? I can't improve on that. So you see what I'm talking about. Communication is ongoing. It is way much more, just as I am more than the sum of my parts. Communication is also way bigger and a whole lot more than simply words that are spoken or words that are not spoken. Actions that are done, actions that are not done, it's all communication. And I'll write a few tenets up here. I'll have to make them a little smaller, but we'll go with it as we go. And the way I say that, or the way I start that idea is, you cannot not communicate. Now you will notice, if you can see the board, I just think that's cute. The only reason I put it up there, but you cannot not communicate. Of course, not here is spelled N-O-T and not is K-N-O-T, and only English would do that. For what it's worth. But it is, sometimes when I'm talking to someone trying to work some out, doesn't it feel like we just get tied up in knots? And I just can't untangle it. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, part of that is because we think we're not communicating, but the reality is we don't know how to commune exactly. Fascinating stuff. Yeah, see, communication by design and in a technical sense is simply a flow of messages. It's a constant flow of messages. If we went out here to the White River and we stood and we watched the river, we would describe it as the water is flowing, moving from upstream to downstream. It flows. How long does it flow? All the time. A river does not stop flowing, and theoretically, if it has water in it, unless it dries up. No, it's constant, always moving. And so, in like manner, we are always giving and receiving messages. You're just not aware of it. It's happening all the time. That's how good of a communicator that you are. So, hold on to that one. Second one, okay, and we'll try to develop these as we go. Since you cannot not communicate, I want you to know, okay, that all behavior is communication. All of it. What I do and what I do not do, in the sense of behavior, if we define it that way, is indeed communicating a message. So not only can I not do it, but everything I actually do is sending a message. And you know this to be true because sometimes I'm sitting thinking I'm doing nothing, but I'm accused of doing something. Or I'm accused of thinking something. I got that a lot when I was young. I was accused of thinking something. I was accused of having a bad attitude. I did not know what that was, but evidently, in the definition of my family's system of commune, I was doing something that was sending a message. And they never really helped me understand that. So does that make sense? I cannot not communicate. All behavior is communication. Now, think of your community. Think here of how you commune. Both of these things are at play. 3, our third one. This is good. Message sent. This is the not equal sign. I'll tell you about that in a second. Message sent is not always message received. In fact, message sent is rarely message received. They just don't line up. I'll tell you why, because we're complex. Because we're actually a transmitter and a receiver at the same time. Crazy. You can't get a radio to do that. It either transmits or it receives. But we, in our funky little brain, we're transmitting and receiving all at the same time. Now that is a recipe for possible confusion, possible misinterpretation, possible miscommunication. Have you heard these terms? Have you ever found yourself embroiled in an attempt to be understood?
Yes.
It's not always easy sledding. Message sent does not equal message received. I love this little symbol here. Did you? They didn't show me this till high school, that there was a not equal sign. I voted in my own meeting with my math teacher at the time that I choose to use the not equal sign in my equations. Gospel truth, I did this. I said, it's America, it's a free country. I'm using not equals for my equations. And I bet you I can make 100. He did not share my enthusiasm of my lateral thinking, but I thought, this is educational communism. I am oppressed, I'm being mistreated. If I had enough sense, I think I would have sued the Board of Education. How can you introduce a viable mathematical sign and not allow me to use it? Anyway, let's go. Silliness, right? Message sent is not always message received because there's a lot of complexity that's held. A lot of times when you're telling me something, I'm trying to think of what I'm going to say, before we get all that massaged out. And I'm just going to tell you, that's the way human interaction is supposed to be. You should expect a miss before you get a hit. And if you will go at it that way, it's not quite as frustrating when we have to massage the message enough to get some understanding. That's normal. That's what communing is about. That's what being in community is about. Being able to be transparent, being able to honestly speak what I think, feel, and believe in a kind way. This going back and forth is how we commune, which in turn builds relationships, which in turn produces recovery. Yeah, message sent is not always message received. You've been talking to people and you can even look at them and talk about all behavior. Have you ever talked to someone and they're going, and in the back of your mind, you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm, yeah, I understand. And you're like, you ain't got a clue. You ain't got a clue what I'm talking about. I bet they're just, And we've done it too. We've done the same thing. Yes, I understand, I got you, but really I'm just saying, please, God in heaven, make them shut up. Just stop talking. So I'm like, yeah, I understand, yeah, got it, yeah. This happens all the time. So, this is what I want to tell you this first. If you can really understand those things and start holding them, as normal, a normal part of the communication process, your frustration goes down and you can begin to massage it. Here's how you massage a verbal communication and move it from a miss into a hit. Because you guys are having to do that constantly, all the time. You're in community and you're communing. And there's a lot of diversity. There should be some diversity of thoughts, of emotion, of ideas, of beliefs, and we should be able to share those. And I want you to learn, because it is the complete lost art of humanity, I want you to be able to learn to civilly disagree and remain in relationship. That's what our civilization has lost. We don't know how to disagree and stay in relationship. And that's vitally important, and you guys are actually way ahead of most because you're here in this community and you're communing, and it's like we make you. Can't eat. If you don't talk, you can't eat. No, I don't know if it's that bad. Probably not that bad. First thing I want you to consider, I'm not going to write this up, but you just listen. I want you to refocus and shape your intention and your work and your ideas. I want you to turn it into understanding instead of being understood. Let me say it again. Work on understanding instead of being understood. And I will offer for your consideration that most of us spend a lot of time trying to be understood. And that's natural. That's not negative. It's natural. We want to be seen and we want to be heard and we want to be understood, right? Nothing wrong with that desire whatsoever. What I'm talking about is the method that gets you there. And the method of communication that gets you there is focusing on understanding. If you will focus on understanding another, you will find yourself understood. If you focus on understanding the other, you will find yourself understood. Because you model a method of communication that is respectful, is kind, is sensitive, and it will work. If I am turned and focused in a natural sense on being understood, and the other is focusing on being understood, what do you suppose happens in our discourse? Man, haven't you been there? Haven't you felt that? It's so tiring. It's so tiring, I just want to quit. And it's not too far of a step to actually believe that the reason we're doing this is because of you. Of course, you're saying that about me too, but really the reason we can't communicate? You. You are the problem. Of course, you probably heard that too. I heard it. You are the problem. And I said, I think you are the problem. So we're both you and each other, trying to be understood, like two mama sheep out there. That's what youing each other actually means, you know. And we get nowhere. Because everybody's wrapped up with being understood and no one is working on understanding. This sounds too simple, but I promise you it works. You see, understanding someone does not take agreement. You can disagree and understand. It does not require, an agreement. What it requires is flexibility. What it requires is consideration, a kind heart. Don't get wrapped up, for diversity's sake in trying to camp or polarize around with people who think and feel and act just like you do. That happens automatically enough, but that's not enough good communing. I want people who have different ideas, different thoughts, different beliefs, challenging ones. I want to be in discourse and conversation with someone that I'm completely, somewhere else with. That's life-giving. But our communities in this culture, just like our education, tend to do what? They reduce. They reduce all the way down to where they're so rigid, they have no flexibility, no room for thought or discourse or anything. And eventually those end up breaking. Focus on understanding. And let me add this to that. If we're going to massage a miss, into a hit, what has to occur? Well, we have to be able to talk, right? Sometimes we have to be able to process and hold the discomfort of my emotion stay in the saddle and still continue a conversation. That can be challenging, can't it? Can be real challenging, because sometimes I came from a family that is not very good at that. You know, if emotion gets too intense, they either fight, okay, or they run, okay, or they freeze. And none of those continues my communing. And so again, remember, we inherit those things. We got to be able to talk even when my emotion, okay, begins to rise up. It's okay. It's okay to have emotion. We'll circle back around sometime this year and talk about emotional processing too. It's okay to have those emotions. And I have to practice continuing or staying in the saddle, as I say it. I have to practice staying in the saddle, having a conversation if my emotions are good. And it really does take practice. So we have to talk. And as we're talking, if I'm working on understanding, what opens up before me, okay, is a fascinating ability, a fascinating sequence of events. Because if I'm working on understanding, what is going to pop into my head over and over and over are questions. This is good stuff here. Some people pay money for this. Questions are magnificent. They are special because questions will drive the interaction, and the interaction will produce relationship. Value the question like gold. And you will have unlimited questions if you focus on understanding. Because as you're talking to me and I'm trying to understand, they just question. And I'll keep asking. And the interaction will continue. And we both will co-create a climate that eventually we feel understood. Let me tell you how valuable the question is. Some of you have heard this before, but most not. Maybe if you are a believer and you go back to the story of creation, do you remember that story? It was a wild scene. It was crazy. But there along the path, we decided to choose knowledge and control instead of living in paradise forever with no clothes. We chose that. And then, the curses came on. But look at, this is where I'm getting to, look at the interaction that took place post partaking of the fruit. By both, obviously. You remember they ate, they realized they were naked and they were ashamed. And so what did they do? They went and they hid. Fascinating story. So they were hiding. The man and the woman were hiding. Along comes the Creator. Don't miss the irony of this. Along comes the Creator, and the Creator asks a question. Have you ever thought about that? Why would if my faith tells me or informs me that the Creator is an all-knowing entity, which I can't explain that, don't try to, but many people will describe him as an all-knowing. I don't know how they know that he's all-knowing, but anyway, maybe some evidence in Scripture or something. But why would an entity or a higher power that is all-knowing ever ask a question? Doesn't that seem odd? But he says, where are you? Where are you? Because what's important? not the answer. The question's important, not so much the answer. What's important? The interaction. Where are you? Can't you see this play out? In my mind's eye, I see it like, we're over here. We're over here. Like, I don't know if I should answer or not. I'm a bit scared. I didn't know scared till just a few minutes ago. But I'm scared. Oh, we're over here. And then look, what comes right on the heels of where are you? We are hiding what? Another question. It's fascinating. Another question. Why are you hiding? Yeah. Can't you just see this play out? Naked. I don't have any clothes on. This is fascinating. Another question. Where are you? Why are you hiding? Who told you you were naked? Oh, then he gets brave, right? Then that idiot gets brave. Because he jumps up and says, the woman you gave me. She took and ate and gave it to me. The woman you gave me. Well, then the woman, right on the heels of that, it was the serpent. All true statements. Everything about that was true, but look at the interaction and look at the relationship development that is occurring in real space and real time, at least in my faith's point of view, because we disobeyed. We had the birth of shame, the birth of blame, and the birth of hiding. And that has driven the relational formula for humanity since that time, has it not? Shame, blame, and hiding. I know those. Man, do I know those. I can do them. Foreshadowing, thanks be to God, His Son came, took care of all that, reconciled me back to a real relationship, and took away all shame, blame, and the need to hide. That's pretty good news, isn't it? That is pretty awesome. If we could just get organized in a way around that reality, life would be lighter. Still going to have issues, but it would be lighter. You see, in order for me to really massage these messages, I have to do something. Okay? As I said, I have to what? I got to ask. Now we're getting to why communication verbally gets stalled out pretty good. You have to ask. And I struggle sometimes with asking. I struggle with asking for help. I struggle with asking for directions. I don't even like asking that dumb machine for directions. But I used to find my way on my motorcycle, so I don't like to ask. Even back in the 8th grade, I came by this early. We were in algebra class. I've said this before. They put letters where numbers are. It's stupid. And then the teacher does this stuff up there, and it comes out. And he goes, does anybody understand? Anybody have any questions? And in my mind, I'm like, I ain't got a clue what you're doing or talking about. None of this makes sense to me. But did I ask a question? No. Because I looked around and there weren't nobody else asking questions. I wasn't going to ask. Does everyone understand? I can't even blame him. He offered it up. Does everybody understand? You see, don't you love this? I was not going to look stupid. So I repeated 8th grade. But I didn't look stupid. Weren't you in 8th grade last year? Yeah. I ain't stupid. And I wasn't. I really wasn't stupid. What was I? Any guesses? I'm prideful. I'm not stupid, I'm prideful. Because I don't want to look, fill in the blank. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to be transparent. I don't want to seem like I don't understand. I don't want any of that kind of stuff, and therefore I tend to not ask. And if you want to communicate and be able to commune, and I'm going to even go so far as recover, you got to be able to ask. And it starts with the mirror. That's who I got to ask. Because if I can get honest with myself, I can find a community to commune with and eventually recover. And God bless you. That's what y'all are here doing. And it's so exciting to be able to come and partake and to participate in that process, to be able to commune with you, to share in this community, does my heart very good. I'm honored that you allow me to. I'm honored that you will, even sit and listen. And we're thankful, so thankful to our people out there in Freedom Talks, and I want you to know that if you're out there and you need some help, ask. If you're out there, I'm going to tell you right now, you're welcome here. And so take a step. That's all you got to do is initiate. So thanks again for your time. Love you guys. Make sure you're kind to one another. See you next time.